Hey guys, Al here, Vitalize Seed. I hope everybody's having a good day. So, wanted to talk about primarily sandy soil. So, I get a lot of calls, and somebody will say, "Can I grow X, Y, and Z? Your mix, or can I grow corn, or it doesn't matter, right? Gardener in sandy soils." Um, and I think that the way to think about soils in general is not necessarily what can grow where. Um, as far as like crop production or cover crop production, but more so how are we going to handle the fertility because of what that soil medium is like. So, example, heavy clay soil can cause a lot of issues. Surface compaction, especially if you're just trying to broadcast on the top. You might not have enough calcium that you're not getting really good water penetration. You could have a higher likelihood of compaction being caused by heavy rainfall or equipment usage, etc. So, yeah, you might have a higher organic matter, let's say, um, and you might have a higher CEC, so you're holding more nutrients, but that doesn't always mean that necessarily you're going to have this easygoing planting, right? And of course, loamy might be a nice mix in between the two, and a nice foundation of being able to hold nutrients and whatnot. But I want to bring up sand because sandy soils. What are some things that we want to do in order to help grow in those? Well, number one, take a soil test. Number two, make sure that we're balancing our base saturation. So we want a higher magnesium in a sandier soil, which is going to actually get that soil to be a little bit tighter, which is going to help from a chemical soil structure. We're going to want to follow the 6 soil health principles, but primarily keeping the soil covered, right? So we're holding on to moisture. Anything we can do to keep moisture is going to help. So tillage is really, really bad on sandy soils. Why? Well, it's already a very light soil. You're going to dry it out even faster, and you're going to break up any aggregation that is occurring. So we don't want to do that. So we want to get that pH right. We want to get those base saturations right. And then we want to use something like the Vitalize 1-2 system where we have a constant root growing, we're keeping the soil covered. And then, as far as the fertility goes, let's say you're planting carbon load, which is our fall mix, it's got your brassicas and your grains, and you want to just get it going in year one, right? So you're like, I think I'm going to use a little bit of fertility. Well, understanding that sandy soils are going to leach. So depending on the nitrogen source, let's just say you're going to be putting nitrogen down. Nitrogen's a very mobile nutrient. It's going to be even more mobile in sandier soil. So what are you going to do in that situation? Well, maybe you're going to do a split application. So say your soil test comes back and says you need 25 units of nitrogen. Instead of putting all 25 down right at time of planting in a sandy soil, maybe you put down half of that, so 12.5 pounds of nitrogen, and then come back 2 or 3 weeks later and apply that additional. Or you decide, hey, I'm going to use foliar applications like Vitalize Fish Fertilizer plus Humics. Humics is going to help to stabilize, jumpstart microbial activity, stabilize fertility, etc. But when you're applying that, you could apply a little bit of planting, then come back a week or two later, you apply some to the young seed germination trait. So you're spoon feeding those plants nutrients. Now, over time, as you get a system going and build up some good fertility and soil aggregation, because we're not going to be tilling anymore or really heavily reduced tillage, and get into a no-till system in those sandy soils so that we can build those things up, and again, control fertility along the way, you're going to be much more successful at creating structure in that soil so that you're not going to have to worry as much about what's going to grow, but just how you're going to handle the fertility to grow that. So the last example I'll give is a good friend of mine has been a mentor, Caleb. Not sure if he follows these or not, but he's really, really bright and really good agronomist, and he's in Georgia. And they grow some fantastic row crop corn in like beach sand soils. And it's all about how you're managing fertility. So corn is like a crop that everybody knows is needs a lot of nutrients. And they're able to do that in sandy soils. Well, how? Well, all through either pivot or Y drops or whatever it might be, but it's spoon feeding the crop at the right times, which is way above and beyond what most growers that we're working with, they're smaller scale farmers or food plotters or home gardeners, etc. But it's still a good example that we can learn from, is how are they able to achieve that in a soil that is, quote, sandy or low organic matter or low CEC, because they understand how fertility moves and how they can manage that. So through those applications, just keep that in mind. If you're looking at a sandy soil and you have a soil test, or you just believe your soil's sandy and you haven't taken a soil test, go ahead, get a soil test, send it on over to us, and let's evaluate it and make a plan as far as that fertility goes. And we might have to use a little bit more in the beginning and spoon feed that. And then over time, as we build up soil biology and we build up the structure of the soil, we'll be able to then scale back down as we've created that biomass above and below ground. So hopefully that makes sense, guys. And I just want to touch on sandy soils a little bit today. And I really appreciate you guys following along. And if you do like this stuff, please share, subscribe, and check us out at vitalizeseed.com.